Greetings and God bless. I wanted to do a video about when you're looking for a roommate or even when you're trying to figure out yourself. These are some interesting, handy roommate questionnaires, and these are things good to know about yourself too. So it's good to know what kind of person, kind of dynamic and relating that you expect with a roommate. Do you want to now just have immediate best friends forever kind of a thing, or be friends, or just kind of more professionally, kind of just, this is a business arrangement. We're both trying to have a nice home and save a little bit of money, and just be respectful and coexist, but not be kind of enmeshed. Also, something I'm noticing on Craigslist ads is there's a lot of people, not a lot, but there's elderly people who are looking for part-time care providers. So, so that's a great opportunity if somebody is has a car and can get out to these remote locations and can kind of help. So I'm seeing that out there. So I think it's good to, you know, if you're in that position, and no matter who it is, if you have a rental, be specific about what the location is. You don't have to give the exact street address, but say that it's near like this gas station or this landmark. So many places they're like it's in South Dakota, it's in Sioux Falls, and they won't tell you where. And so you have this 50-mile radius to try to guess. And when you're a renter, one of the benefits of renting is you get to choose what neighborhood you're going to be in, and you want to know what amenities are there. Is there a store? And yeah, it's really annoying when somebody's trying to find a renter and they're not telling you more specifically where it is or the amenities. Please post a picture. And if you don't have the skills to post a picture, maybe try to get somebody else to post a picture of the room and of the outside of the house. And if you just won't do that, describe the place. Does it have a yard? Does it have a patio? Does it have any other kind of special fireplace? So let us continue. Which statement best describes you? So this applies to whoever's renting and prospective roommates. So are you a morning person that prefers to live with a morning person, or a morning person that can live with a night person? And that might work because if both can be respectful, the morning person could use the living room during the day, and the night person would use the living room, at night. So a night person that prefers to live with a night person, or a night person that can live with a morning person. So obviously, I think that would just be a noise issue. Just can people be considerate? And some people just don't have that consideration. So it's good to figure it out. And I'm wondering, like, I think there should be made clear that there's like this mutual probationary period, because some people just aren't aware of how disruptive they are or how many problems there are with the space. And they have a high tolerance for constant noise, constant light like somebody has their brights on outside the window at midnight until 3 in the AM or something. So, it's just some people don't notice anything. I don't know what it is, but I think there has to be like a probationary period where if a space is unlivable, you need to go if you want to. So maybe it's good to clarify, because a lot of people work from home now, and I notice a lot of people who are renting, they basically want ghost renters. So they don't want anybody using the kitchen, using the living room. They don't want somebody in the room that they're renting. They want nobody there, and they want that person to pay rent. So it's good to, if that's what you're looking for in a roommate, basically say, I want a ghost roommate. I don't want anybody here. I just want you to pay me money. And but if you are somebody who works from home, that's good to get that clear in case that's an issue for people. And Some people don't like having other people having friends over. So if you're somebody who has friends over, that's good too, to get clear about. Next question, and this questionnaire is in the description box. So this is or this document is in the description box. So question 4: when dealing with conflicts. Sorry about that. I'm able to clearly express my feelings and concerns, or I will generally express my concerns in a joking fashion so the other person will get the hint. Most people don't. I usually wait until I'm really annoyed or angry. I'm not comfortable asserting myself in conflict. So, that's kind of good to know. And that's why these forms are good, because you're not having to maybe talk about it if it's too hard for you to talk about. But if anybody's kind of nice, maybe they'll work with you with your limitations and with your strengths. Number 5, what statement best describes your preferred studying environment in your room? So this is a housing roommate questionnaire for college, but you know, um, I would just put in what's your preferred living environment. When you're sharing a rental, I prefer a place that's quiet with some noise. I'm able to function regardless of any noise, and I must have some noise in order to study. So next, number 6, I consider myself fairly shy, neutral, fairly outgoing. The next question is about smoking, whether somebody's daily, occasionally, don't smoke. And I would add in, are people doing other kind of smoking? And if so, do you have, specifics like, okay, do they smoke outside? And if they smoke outside, are they just going to smoke right at the door? So the smoke just goes right into the whole apartment. Are they going to smoke right under your window so the smoke gets into the apartment? How do you want to work that out? Then the next question, 8, I would prefer a roommate that smokes. And I think that really should be, if you're a smoker, vapor, stoner, you probably should live with other people who do that. Unless the non-smoker really doesn't care. So I prefer somebody that smokes, does not smoke, having no preference. And I noticed like a lot of smokers say that they're quitting or they don't really smoke, and then they're smoking right at the door or under the window. So yeah, it's interesting. People just don't think that, like, I guess it's a compulsive lying thing that we are in right now. So how would others describe you? Funny, athletic, artistic, easygoing, fashionable, outdoorsy, alternative, serious, studious. I plan on going home when? Every weekend, every other weekend, once a month, rarely, or only during academic breaks, or never. I like to have music or TV on in my room or in the living room. Is it all the time? Most of the time. Sometimes, rarely, never. I like living in a very clean space that's cleaned daily. And I would also ask if that's the case, if somebody's like OCD, because I'm a tidy person, but I'm not like a psychotic, like everything has to be shiny and like this somebody's going to take a picture right that moment. Like, and I've been in situations where I was like, on top of the dishes and the sweeping and the garbage or whatever, and there was like some water spots on the counter, and the person was like upset about that. So, if you're really OCD, like it's just, own it and be like, yeah, I need somebody who is OCD and, will make this the ultimate priority of their life, cleaning the house as I like it. So the next level is clean space, where it's cleaned weekly, a messy space, or indifferent. I don't care which condition my room is in. So that's good to get clear about. And I would also just make sure about pet peeves. Like for me, I have a pet peeve about when people fill up the sink. Even if there's two sinks, they fill up both sinks. And so you can't even get a glass of water or wash your own dishes because it's piled high for a week or weeks. So I would, get clear about that. And also, like who's taking out the trash, uh, or who's buying the dish soap or toilet paper, because I've lived in places where it was really fend for yourself. Something else, and you notice this with couples a lot, is about temperature. So do you prefer a room that is, or a house that's cold, fairly warm? And and I would also take into account, like, what kind of expenditures do people expect. So there are some roommates who just assume you're going to pay for cable, even if you don't use cable. You're going to pay for whatever subscriptions or do whatever this roommate has plans for, even though it wasn't anything that was your plan. So I think that there's some self-centered megalomaniac people out there that haven't been raised to share existence with other human beings, and so they just think that whatever they want is their prerogative. And of course, that's not the case. If you don't want cable because you never watch TV, you really shouldn't be expected to pay for cable. So I would get clear about, like, what are utilities. So if somebody likes keeping the house at like 75 degrees year round, and that's going to cost $400 in the heating bill, is that are you cool with that? Because people, I have noticed, don't mind spending other people's money, and so you just want to know where your prospect, uh, like, is at. I think this is a really great list. Select your top 3 to 5 concerns about your future roommate. Not picking up after themselves, parties or friends over too much, boyfriend, girlfriend over all the time, living there, messy roommate, eating all my food, being loud when I study sleep, friendliness, like maybe if they're not friendly enough, too friendly. Like, something I have found is when people are cliquey, like I've been in roommate situations where there was just this really, really toxic cliquey dynamic that occurred. Yeah. Drug use, lack of respect for my privacy, open-minded, not prejudiced. So this is people, like there's some people who want there to be no morality or whatever, and just be some hipster, cutting edge, you know, anarchy kind of a thing. And I know I'm using like broad terms, and there's good anarchists that are radical, but I don't know how best to say it without upsetting anybody. But when people are looking for open-minded, it usually means something kind of like there's some weird sexual thing going on. Just like if you're looking at roommate ads, when somebody's saying open-minded, they're looking for the roommate to hook up with them. They're looking for a same-sex roommate. That's generally what I observed. And the thing is, there's something to being discerning. There's something to actual, like a discriminating palate. When you can tell rosé wine from Merlot, like that is taste, right? So there's something to be said for having good taste. And having being promiscuous is not in good taste. So anyways, that's just my opinion. So continuing, people, so this continue the top concerns, being close to my age. So I do notice a lot of people want people close to their age. Being concerned about roommate not sharing chores, bad personal hygiene, using my things without asking, nudity in the space, not willing to compromise, communication problems, obnoxious behavior, and loud music and TV. So yeah, I think I would. I mean, I thought that last series of questions was very good. Like for me, people not sharing chores, for instance, like using up all the dishes and leaving them for weeks, or like upon moving in, like the stove being like years of caked on grime. Literally, I've been there. Like I've had that happen, and the roommate upset about me addressing that, and so. Uh, And I would add, there's some more interesting questions. If anybody is interested in me continuing with more questions, these are additional kind of nitty gritty roommate questions. So I think it's good to know if people have allergies, and along with allergies can be sensitivities to like fragrances, cleaning products, sprays, sanitizers, and like air, like hair products or whatever. I mean, there's some really super strong chemicals, and especially in the wintertime when there's no airflow, when somebody's doing like they've just used all these chemicals of soaps and shampoos, and then they've used a cleaning product, and you're having to smell all of that. So that's a good thing to know. Also, if people have like peanut allergies or whatever, that's good to know. So we've talked about cleaning. It's good to get clear about what everybody agrees is a good cleaning plan. And what I think it's good to also ask about what happens when somebody doesn't fulfill their agreement that we've made. Do we have money set aside for a maid? Will the roommate be billed for the cost of a maid? Another good question is about windows. Will the windows be left open, closed, depending on the weather? And same goes for doors. I have applied to rent at places where the door was open, nobody had keys, and all the rooms were open. And I mean, what were people's computers like? I mean, I just didn't understand what the logic of that. So there are some landlords who don't believe in their tenants having keys or a locked door. At least that has been my experience. So let's see. So what happens if a roommate is really loud and just is so loud, like the snoring from their room? Like, what does one do? And little things like if somebody has a water filter, do we agree that after you use up the water, do you refill the pitcher? What happens when somebody's locked out of the house? What about use of personal belongings or not? And how do people prefer to communicate? So, do you want to write a note? Do you want to have a face-to-face conversation, email, voicemail? And, if there's a problem, do we want to confront the person or let them know in a more calm way, or what else? And what are like, is it possible for people like to allow, like, to not push somebody else's agenda? I saw an ad today that I thought was really great. Like the person was like, I don't care whatever you believe, your orientation, whatever, as long as you keep it to yourself. And I think that's a good point. Like, if we're all trying to find an economic way to live, to survive. And, just because I'm a King James Version Bible user, like, I'm not going to force a new international version person to read the King James. I'm going to maybe, say I think the King James is the way to go. But I just noticed that there's this kind of activist, kind of intrusive, disrespectful way of being, where there's people are just like, you have to do it my way or you should die. And I mean, I've had friends with the current situation that's been going on right now, that have said that to me. So, anyways, yeah, you can have your own beliefs just as long as you don't try shoving it down my throat. So it's good to talk about like when you're upset. What do you prefer to do? Do you prefer to talk about the difficult things like the dishes aren't being done, or are you somebody that needs time to think about it and figure out a better way of communicating it, or are you somebody that prefers not to talk about things? So how do you want your roommates to behave? Like, so if, or, what do you want them to do in case, let's say you did something, let's say you left the dishes in the sink for a week. Do you want your roommates to tell you right away, or do you want them to wait and find a time for the best time to talk? So, are there quirky things about the place? Like, I have lived in a lot of places where it took forever for the hot water to ever go on, or there would be very limited hot water, like you'd get like 5 minutes. So is that a quirk? Just a good to know. And so if there's guests that are going to be visiting, how do you want that to be? Do you want that to just happen whenever, or or the kind of guests? So if somebody's just visiting for an hour, but if somebody's an overnight guest, do you have like different standards? Do you want to know about that? Like if somebody's staying over or somebody's pet is staying over. I've had that happen where just this big dog would be outside my room overnight for a week, and it had a really loud collar, and it would shake the collar every like 10 or 15 minutes. And it was just really loud at 2 a.m. and, just wake me up. And the thing is, like when something wakes you up, there's a lot of oblivious people out there that if something bothers them, they believe it matters. But if something bothers somebody else, it doesn't count. Like that person is, I'm beginning to wonder if there's some people that really think that other people are lesser humans, and in their family they matter, but like if you're not in their family, you really don't matter, and you're like a slave, and less than a slave, you're garbage. Because I don't understand like um people and their behavior and their complete lack of conscience. So anyways, so talking about guests, what are thoughts about guests using your stuff or not? And I was in that same housemate situation where their parents came and they used my washcloth, and, they'd wash their face and it was all wet, and, and they knew I was there. I saw them, they saw me. And yet people don't realize that uh, somebody who's living there actually has stuff that's in the bathroom. I mean, just some people are very clueless. So that's why it's good to get things kind of squared away in the beginning. And yes, it sounds a little dorky, but it's better to know from the start where people are coming from rather than having to kind of make mistakes as you go along. And sometimes there's things just don't get fixed. When and being clear, like this is important, is to be able to talk about these kind of annoying things. Like if somebody doesn't want to talk about these annoying things, they're probably not a good roommate material. So talk about deposit, if there's first, last, security. So I think that is it for now. And lastly, I am noticing that there's a lot of men who are they're doing human trafficking. They're posting personal ads in the housing section, and they need to post their personal ads, their sex trade stuff that they're trying to do, the human trafficking. They need to put that in the personal ad. And the thing is, like, women are not looking to be trafficked, so they're not looking in the personals for these horrible situations. And so men are seeking desperate women. This is across the nation. Just click on your local Craigslist ad and you're going to see some man who's looking for an open-minded, fun, friendly woman to either pay rent or live for free to be their sex person, their prostitute. And, some men, and they're posting this in the housing section. Now, if they're posting in the personal section, that's fine. But this is a survival. Like housing is a huge problem right now. Housing has always been a difficult situation, but the fact that so many men are posting for a date, or for a sex slave, basically, they're posting in the housing section. It's just, I find that so despicable. And so when you see that, when you see men who are looking for sex in the housing section, they're bargaining housing for sex for desperate women. And it's just like posts. There's guys who are like, "Are you desperate? I have a place for you if you're desperate." And some guys are like, "I'm just looking for love." If you're looking for love, don't post in a rental in the housing section. Like you're a despicable person. You're a creep if you're posting something like that in housing. Because so let's say you find a desperate woman because they're in, and so are you going to say, "Oh, I posted a sex trade ad on Craigslist and now we're together"? Like how much pride, how much self-respect does that woman feel? Do you feel if you're the guy that posted it? I mean, what are other people around them gonna think? Like, so he posted an ad for sex and she answered it and now they're getting married. Oh, happily ever after. Said no one ever. Like, this is not a good thing. So when you see these human trafficking things, flag it, because human trafficking is illegal. So, and it's unfortunate that the housing industry is making this happen. And there are so many people who own properties, who are investors, and we're like Christians, believers, or vegans, and Earth firsters or something. Like there's good people who have properties, but they're charging like $1,500 for this apartment. That's not worth that. But they're like, "Well, I'm an investor. I need to make all this money and keep up with the Joneses." And especially if they're in like this remote location, like where there's just nothing there, like there's no jobs that can pay for that amount of monthly rent. So it is my feeling that investors and landlords and property managers that are have these unreasonable rents are part of they're culprits in human trafficking, because they're making housing unaffordable. And what they want is they want government assistance. These landlords, property managers, investors, they know that what they're asking is unreasonable, and people on disability or whatever can't afford it. So they corner poor people that qualify to apply for Section 8. And then Section 8 is going to pay $2,000 or whatever for the slum that the landlord is renting. And so the landlords are just on the dole too. The landlords are they're forcing people to get welfare for housing. And I think it's a racket. I think they all are just expecting the government to pay these overpriced rentals, or they're expecting people to work 2 or 3 jobs to pay for a place that's not worth it. Like, folks, it is not worth $1,500. A lot of these apartments, it's not worth it. Like, I think, if you break it up into 2 or 3 roommates, so everybody's paying $500, I think that's fair. If there's good public transportation, a couple restaurants, a nice grocery store, that's some good living. But for people to have to work 3 jobs to pay for, a crummy place in the middle of nowhere, I feel like it's so sad. So anyways, those are my thoughts. And if I've missed anything about good, like roommate self assessment questionnaire kind of things, please put it in the comments below. And do you have any thoughts about the rental racket that's going on right now, where um, like rentals are just crazy? And then, buying a home, that's also kind of not, it's kind of ridiculous. 300,000 in the middle of like Iowa or something like that. And, um, you know, and the thing is, like, if there's kind of sketchy things going on in your local government, uh, you know, I wouldn't want to buy a home if they're planning to do like Marxist stuff and, you know, punish people for what they think. And I can't say more specific than that, but you can fill in the blanks. So, if you're buying a home, unless you have a great job lined up, like I would look into what is the voting record of the area, and is it where you want to be, um, and where you anticipate maybe your mindset. Like, are you planning on getting a sex change in the next year, or are you finding more interest in learning about the Constitution? So to kind of decide along those lines. So, anyways, please feel free to comment, and thank you so much for listening. God bless. Oh, sorry. I thought this was done. Okay, here we go. Now I'm going to end the video.